You're listening to Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 79, Handling Problems in Games as a Player. Today we talk about the player side of the table again. We discuss some failings that GMs can make and how you can handle them as a player in a game. We also discuss what to do if all communication breaks down. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me in person today, excuse him, he seems like he's not in the best of mood today. Jared.
I woke up so grumpy. So incredibly grumpy.
I'm sorry. I came in. I looked at you. I was like,
should I go home?
Had
you asked, should I go home? I would have told you yes.
It's one of those days.
It's one of those days.
One of those weeks.
It's one of those weeks.
Oh, man. I'm
Terrible
sorry.
Freaking week.
Sorry. I'd ask you to explain it, but, you know.
Long story short, terrible week. There we go.
Week. The too long didn't read terrible weeks.
Anyone who gets paid salary but like has to work like 1 million hours a week will understand because we don't get overtime for it. So unless you're in California.
Oh, yeah, California's got a bunch of favorable worker laws, I think, in some cases.
Yeah. Oh. Terrible week. There we go. End of story.
Well, you know what? You're still in good health, so.
Yeah, you literally just, well, you got your health. That's what you literally just did.
I still love you.
Well, you got your health.
You got your health.
That's what you tell people after, like, they get divorced. Well, you got your health.
At least you have two adorable kittens. I mean, they're being a little bit of a tear right now. But
yeah, they've entered the terrible twos, at least for the last 2 days. Like, everything needs to be bit. Everything. So, I don't know. It could be teething, I assume, but so.
Possible.
They've entered the terrible twos.
So
they're not being, like, fuzzy and snuggly when I need them to be. They're just like, I'm snuggly and soft. Bite. What the hell?
You're like, I need you to be therapeutic.
I do.
Jerk.
But you shouldn't put that stressors on your kittens. You should just let them be kittens.
That's true.
They're not my therapist. They're my kittens.
We'll make a shirt. They're not my therapist. They're my kittens. Anyways, so today we're going to talk about a subject that was brought forward by our listener, Gary, and he sent us a very long email about this, kind of talking about, he talked about when we did our podcast on players going south, or the games going south from a GM perspective. Like, why is it going south? And he talked about, maybe we can talk about it from, like, what do you do as a player if things are going south for you? Okay, like, because of various different reasons. And he talks about, he listed about 7 different reasons. And so we're going to go through his reasons, kind of give you what he was experiencing. And then we will we'll talk about our solutions for these reasons.
Yeah, and we'll go through them.
What? What are you going to say?
Nothing. Keep going.
There's a forward to this.
Huh?
What is it? Go ahead.
No, there is no forward. Continue.
Are you sure?
Yes.
The grump strikes?
Oh, no. So what I was going to say is, like, at first I felt like I didn't have any room to talk with this because I spent so much time as a storyteller. But I did spend many years as a player for LARPs. So that's when, and I was like, yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, I'm sure all these things have happened to you. I mean, if you're to listen to him here, and Gary is primarily works with online groups, so he does like on Roll20 or pickup games and stuff like that. So it's a little bit easier when you know the people that you're dealing with because you can be like, hey, Steve, listen, man.
Well, LARP's slightly similar. You don't know everyone there.
LARPs are generally pretty large. I mean, at least the ones you went to. So, you have a wide variety of people. So you might have the same sort of, you don't know what you're going to get.
No, you don't. Especially when you're going to a new LARP. Holy crap. Then you're like, All right, so now that's why they all call you Creepy Steve.
Yep.
Okay, thought it was just a loving nickname. Not so much. When you told me to open up my own veins so we can cast the spell, no.
We'll dive into these. So the first one he brought up was the unhinged player. And so we've all dealt with this before. This is your standard Kender character. He's always screwing up, what you're trying to do, your plans. He's making, massive. He's botching everything. He's
literally.
He's the firecracker in the barrel. He's literally like
firecracker in the barrel.
He's the guy who's going to.
He's the match in the barrel of firecrackers.
That's it. There we go. That's That's more apt. But yeah, no. This is the player that you're discussing.
Purposely brings catastrophe upon the group.
Yes, you're discussing what your plan is for how you're going to handle the scary corridor of scariness, and he goes and runs down the scary corridor of scariness.
I hate that shit.
And then you all run after him, and everybody dies. And then he's like, what happened? And the GM is apathetic and doesn't care.
Well, yeah. So I've dealt with this, definitely, and especially the GM apathy to it.
Or if the GM encourages it, too.
My thing was, so we had a player like this, and they'd run down the spooky corridor, and I'd be like, no, I'm not running after him. He's dead meat. Adios. And then the storyteller would essentially spend the rest of the time dealing with them, almost making the story entirely about them, the spooky corridor, and essentially, like, I knew they were fubbing rolls because, like, they're like, oh man, this corridor is supposed to be so scary and creepy, and for some odd reason, like, this guy who's like went down there with no preparation, no plan, whatever, managed to slip out of every conceivable trap, and I'm like, wow, that's just really freaking lucky. And it's not. It's the GM fub and rolls, so they don't have to ice a character, and the people who are like, no, I'm not going down there, literally get left behind by the storyteller, because the storyteller is pandering to one player so they don't have to make that hard choice.
Yeah, so it's twofold. Your GM needs to be aware of that situation.
Erin is now dealing with the kitten going through her terrible twos.
I just got clawed real good in the leg. No, the GM needs to be.
Do not try to snuggle with them right now. They're wild jungle cats. You got to be like a mama cat and just like shove them away.
So yeah, but
do not engage her.
I'm a sucker.
You're like, oh my god, you're so snuggly. Let me snuggle you, and then they bite you, and then I'm like, well, I told you, do not engage her.
I'm not engaging.
Look at her. Look at her eyes. They're killer's eyes. Small 2-year-old kitten killer's eyes. Yep. See. There you go. It begins.
Anyways, no, I think the GMs tend to be a big part of what's at fault here. Like we talked about this before, that your GM needs to have awareness of how things are going at the table, and they need to be aware of which players are causing problems and make sure to dole out the consequences appropriately. You shouldn't punish the group or feel like excited because some person threw a wrench in the spokes of a moving bicycle. Like,
so here's my thing. So, because Gary's email said specifically, how do I deal with this from the player side? Because the GM side, very quickly, I'd say engage full lethality. You know what I mean?
How do you talk to the GM about it?
Well, that's what I want to say is essentially, as a player, one, I'm not going to give you the attention. Now, unfortunately, so again, like I always say, look at the motives behind someone who's doing shit like this. This is a cry for attention. That's what it is. They don't feel like they're getting enough attention, so I'm going to do something big and stupid that will get my attention. Take this from a teacher of 8 years. Your students that are the class clown, they're lacking attention at home. I guarantee you, they are. Like, okay, and instead of dealing it with responsibly, the GM's just pandering to them. So the first thing is don't engage in their stuff. You know what I mean? When you start seeing the pattern, and it's not them just playing their character, even if they are just playing their character and their character does this kind of stuff, I mean, it's very hard not to say as a GM I would, but no.
Well, as a player, I always feel like you kind of need to break the fourth wall here, which is if you know he's about to do something stupid, let him do the stupid thing.
Let him do it,
and don't go save him. Even if it's in character to go save him, don't go save him because it isn't worth ruining. Let's say there are 10 of you at the table, and one of you always throws the spoke in the wheels, okay? That guy, he's going to do it. Even, like, in real life, if you had a friend who always did that, you would just be like, so long.
Yeah, they're the kids who's always, like, with the cast every summer. And, like, well, we're going to the pool, so...
We're not waiting around.
There's natural
you.
consequences.
Okay, if you were pulling off a major heist, just imagine this: you're pulling off a major heist, and then somebody just pulls out their gun and starts shooting people. You'd be like, "Nope, see you later."
Well, I'd probably engage them, But like, take it from a military perspective. If there was some private who is just running in the middle of a firefight, not from cover to cover, but like just running in the middle. There is a thing, like I'm going to go save my battle buddy, right?
Yeah.
But you go save your battle buddy. Afterwards, that motherfucker is going to get beat with so many socks filled with soap. It's unbelievable. Okay? They're going to beat the ever-living piss out of him afterwards. Like, yeah, I'm going to save you because you're my battle buddy. I'm not going to let you die. But also, you're going to have the sergeant who's going to be like, clearly the soldier is suicidal.
Again, but you're playing a fantasy game here. You're playing a game where you are portraying characters. What you would do in real life is you might go to save the person because they're your cohort. But because you have the
you got to break that fourth wall.
Because you have the fourth wall there, you can break the fourth wall and go, no, that's just what Tom does at our table. He goes and he's got bad plans.
And it's because he's not getting enough attention at home, work, whatever. He's lacking something, and he's trying to find it at the table, and it's just.
And that would be your greatest communication to your GM is when your players start becoming apathetic to what your character is doing.
My thing is you notify your it's not even a discussion. It is a notification to your GM. Have you noted? I wouldn't even start off with like a leading question. I would be like, Aaron. Every time we are in a dangerous or tense situation, have you noticed that I am notifying you that Tom runs down that hallway of danger, leading the rest of the party
to their untimely
deaths, which is ending your story, a story that I am enjoying. I want to notify you of this so you can try to prevent it in the future, because as a player, I'm tired of him ruining the story that I'm engaged in. I'm enjoying your story. I love your story. I can't wait to see its end. I never get to see its end because Tom always gets us killed.
So I mean that's really what it kind of comes down to. Again, so those are two ways that you can deal with it if you want to try and, I guess, change the situation. The other thing too is if you're working with online games, and this is going to come from most of them, is no group is going to be perfect, and there might be some of these that are more like they stick in your craw more than others. What it's going to come down to is I think you can find other online groups. I know the known is usually better than the unknown, but be judicious about it. If you game with you, let's say you are the word,
judicious.
If you are the GM for some of your groups, for some of the guys that you game with, and they also game in other groups, maybe tag along with them to become a player in another group.
Yeah, ask them about, like, hey, are there any other games?
How is your group? What's going on with it? Because they'll treat you, at least have unknown in that situation there. So, do you have anything else to say on that one?
No, I'm good with that one. Notify your GM. Don't encourage the behavior, and then if need be, leave.
So the next one is an issue of boundary issues. Now this is kind of player to player boundary issues, or even player to GM boundary issues. So what Gary explained to us is that in a lot of these online communities and online role playing communities, they encourage side sessions between the players to kind of break them out and then discuss kind of what happened. They're sort of improv-y, and they're designed to effectively create potential new plot points for the GM to pick up on and then use later on. And so the example he used was he was playing in a Star Wars FAD game, and he engaged with the character who was playing the team medic, and he was talking about how he was thinking about maybe murdering the Sith, giving him an overdose of drugs because they had him imprisoned, and he's talking about how, like, his mental state with the character. So number one, that could be that you're talking with somebody who doesn't want to do like a serious engagement on a mental level. Mm-hmm. But the character was just like, oh yeah, no, that sounds great. Go ahead and do it. Okay. Which is like, you tell a Jedi to do that. Yeah, sure. Way to go. Okay. But
sure, Jedi. I'm not going to counsel you against this.
So Gary's, character gives the drugs to the person. And then because
no offense though, totally within the, I mean, if Mace Windu and if you watch Star Wars, I mean, the Jedi do shady shit like this. And I'm sorry, Gary's move was actually more humane than Mace Windu, which is going to be less painful. Like, they already had the Sith, like, sedated. Uh-huh. And then they're just going to put him into a deeper sleep. He won't even know what happened. Like, the body won't even react. Instead of Mace Windu, like, I'm gonna stick my lightsaber through him because he's too dangerous to live. I'm just saying, Gary was being very humane, in my personal opinion. I think he was doing the right thing. But go Gary.
What ended up happening was Gary gave him the sedative to overdose him, and then the player who's playing the other side of this role play says, "Well, you don't have enough medical knowledge to know what you grabbed out of my office, and instead of grabbing a sedative, you grabbed a drug that just didn't do anything. And so you just injected him with something that didn't do anything." And then Gary's like, cue the clown horns, like, dur, 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 dur. So, I mean, like, I've never dealt with these side sessions and these breakouts.
No, neither have I.
And if
no, I have in LARP.
If you are going to do them, I would almost recommend asking for a third person to be the moderator of it, because at least then they have the ability to say, like, well, what you did there did kill the Sith, and the big bad guy's now dead. Okay?
Well, in this sort of situation, what I would recommend, first off, a side... What I don't like about this whole side thing is that the storyteller is essentially encouraging the players to play like pro soccer 4 points with no referee. It's not great, because guess what? Somebody's going to trip, call a foul, and the other person's going to disagree without a referee.
One of the things he talks about here, too, is that the players tend to not go forth to play for points. They play for, embarrassing or ruining the other player, effectively. So it kind of becomes PvP.
Lame. So, one, I would say, if we're not playing for points, and it's just supposed to be get together and fun to try to give the storyteller additional story to tell, which is odd, to say the least. I would really question this storytelling, just on this principle. I'm not sure that's gonna work out for you. But one, don't engage. When the storyteller encourages it, is it required as part of the game? No. Okay, then I'm not gonna do it. Because my referee doesn't want to come to the game.
good point.
I need my referee.
You need a referee if you're going to do anything like this. You need you need somebody to arbitrate rules between characters.
In LARP, if I went off and was like, okay, we're gonna go wax this other player because they are, I don't know, doing something that deserved them getting popped. The minute that there's a disagreement in the rules or the how the scene is supposed to go, I'm telling you, we would call for a narrator, right? So there's a storyteller in LARP, and then there are narrators. Narrators are essentially blessed by the storyteller to be non-partial referees when the storyteller can't be there, because LARPs can consist of, sometimes they can consist of over 100 people. One man cannot be present for all rules calls. So they will deputize people as narrators. And it works really well. So as a player, I would call a narrator over to make that impartial decision. 90% of the time it was never impartial, but sometimes on my side, sometimes on the other person's side.
It is tough because you'll never feel like, again, if you're asking a referee to make a call.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think, you should take an oath that I vow to be impartial.
As impartial as possible.
Because I've seen them go the other way so bad. But yes, in this particular side quest sort of thing, if the storyteller is not going to offer an impartial referee with the capability of making a rules call for points when it comes down to playing for points, don't engage it. Simply, decide that is not a system of this game that I'm going to get involved in, because there is no rules, and because there's this hazy area of we're playing for points, but we're not. Because in this situation, Gary would have killed the main bad guy. That's playing for points. That's playing for keeps. I'm going to decimate your story because I just murked your main villain. There is no he's coming back from this. I just gave him lethal injection. Just put him into the chair. So very much I would just, for this particular type of situation, I would just simply not engage in that sort of thing. Because in the end, whenever there's a PvP situation, whenever there's a player disagreement, the impartial referee has to be present. They have to be present. And if they're not willing to be present, then no. So that's kind of where I'm at with that one. Do you have any final thoughts on that point?
No, my only other thing would be, if you are going to even think about doing it or engaging with it, like I said, either find a way to get a ref in there, or make sure that you're doing it with people that you've kind of established some sort of rapport with, that maybe you trust would be willing to dive into deeper stories. I mean, this one talked about kind of the emotional state of his character, and his decision to do what he's going to do.
Call for a ref.
Yeah. Or, make sure that if it's going to have some lasting impact to the game, call for a ref.
Yep. That's in the end. Either don't engage or call for the ref.
So the next one he's got is Stranger Danger. And that is when you're joining a new game group. Everybody there seems to have gotten, extensive KYP sessions. You gave the GM, all the GM would require is, hey, send me your background stuff. Hey, it looks good. 2 thumbs up. And then everyone's like, we're all playing, let's say you're doing a Star Wars game. Everyone's playing Jedi, and you come in as a smuggler or something. And it's like one of these things doesn't fit.
One of these things are not like the other.
It's almost like you didn't get the brief. Okay, so at that point, I would go to the GM and be like, what the fuck?
Bro, can I remake a character? I mean, everyone's freaking Jedi here, and I'm a smuggler.
Or did you come in a session in, and this is the critical sin. We talked about this with GMs, or one of the critical sins. We talked about this with GMs, where they don't give enough attention to somebody who's coming in like as a second, like on a second night. Because they're just like, oh, everyone else is jiving; those move right along with the party. It's
yeah,
like,
that's a flat out. It happens sometimes. Like, you know, I mean, if Ken had missed a first session and we would have just jived him in. But you know, if we're bringing in new people that have never met my players, no, I'm not going to assume there's a jive. I'm going to give that person a lot of attention, a lot of personal attention, and I'm going to also talk to my other players and be like, this person's new. Can we be friends?
yeah, I mean, it's really heavy on your GM. But I went in that first session, and it's like, whoa, I do not fit in all with this group. This group is doing something completely different. Like everyone made like, you know, the Ocean's 11 crew, and I'm like Sam, the cooking guy. Like, you know, I would be furious at the GM for doing that. You got to just talk with your GM at that point. Be like, what the heck is going on? Can I create a new character?
Exactly. That's what it comes down to is if your character is the spoon in a drawer full of knives, I need to make a knife. Like, I can't expect the storyteller to change the drawer full of knives into a drawer full of forks or to a drawer full of spoons. Because what I'm probably going to get is a drawer full of forks with a couple of knives and then me, the spoon. We're all silverware, but we're still not alike. So
we can have a dinner party, but I'm not playing the right dinner.
Yeah, I'm a salad fork at a carnivore's dinner. So really for this, it's speaking with the storyteller. It is letting them know, like, hey, listen, I clearly, you know, made a spoon for a world full of knives. Can I change characters? Can I get some KYP? Can I discuss with you how we'll enter my character in? Because the party is really tight. You know, help me out.
Yeah, ask him to throw you a lifeline. And if he doesn't want to do it, then be like, "Sorry, I'm out, bro." Like,
deuces.
And this is one of those things. Like, this is almost false advertising for your game.
It is, and especially when you did extensive KYP, and I've seen this from storytellers quite often. You know, where you've got the one guy who came late and they didn't give him any freaking attention and just expected that, oh, he'll jive, he'll roll in, and it doesn't work that way. You know, and so essentially you can either try to play along, try to become a knife. You can say, well, I'm gonna make this a story about how a spoon becomes a knife. You know, but at that point you're making a commitment for you to fill in that gap. And if that's the intent, there's nothing wrong with telling the storyteller that, listen, that's my plan. I'm gonna need your help. You know, so
yeah. I think that's what this is going to come down to. Anything else you want to add to that one?
No, I'm comfortable.
All right, the next one. This happens. I have never experienced this.
I've experienced this one.
This is the in real life girlfriend or boyfriend where your GM is either dating someone in the group or trying to date someone in the group. Jared, I know you have gamed with people who are couples. I don't know if you've actually gamed where the DM is dating.
Oh yes,
one of the members.
That DM was my brother. When he was dating Aaron forever.
This is like, you can't do anything about this.
No, you're sorry. The very plain answer to this one is buckle up, Buttercup, because you're fucked. All right. That is,
and this is why we have the explicit rating.
This is why the algorithm doesn't like me. But you're screwed. You are screwed. You are dealing with hundreds of thousands of years of instinct of, I want to get it on, versus, hey, bro, you're kind of treating that person a little better than you're treating the rest of the party. They're gonna be like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. It's not gonna change. I hate to break it to you. They are trying to, let's get it on. Dun, dun. exactly. You are so screwed. So buckle up. That's what I'd say, because they're about to get the world when, especially the trying to date. Oh my God, that is the worst.
That's almost worse than them already dating, because at least if they're already dating, there might be a little less
trying hard.
A little less trying hard. If you're trying to date someone at the table, it's just like
screwed.
Like nothing's gonna go your way. It's just you might as well expect that this game is not made for you.
Here's my advice: align with the potential mate. Okay, whatever they want to do, just follow with that line. You'll be successful. Okay. Or just get ready for the nasty ride. You're trying to beat hundreds of thousands of years of instinct. He wants to make babies, or she wants to make babies. And if you think that you're going to get around their instinct animal brain, I do wish you the best of luck. Okay, so
what have you done in these groups? Because I've never dealt with it.
So I just watched the fucking chaos unfold. All right, that's what I did. I just buckled up. I was like, okay, here we go. Did
other people in the group get mad about it?
Of course they did. They're dating. I dealt with married couples. Okay, I've dealt with married couples at the same table. All right, I can. Oh my God, one of the best times was when Jason and the girl were fighting. And they still had game. And oh my God, whatever she wanted, she didn't get. And man, it just made her even more mad. And then there was an awkward fight in the middle of the game. We're all like, should we just go? And at LARP, oh my God. At LARP, it was the worst. Because every girl, I feel so bad for any of our female listeners who have been to a LARP and don't want the attention of.
You're like a piece of meat thrown into the shark.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've always I feel bad for him. I feel terrible for him. And I'm just gonna say it's no. No, you got two options: buckle up or get in line. And that's it.
Or get out.
Or get out. There's your three options. Put on your fucking helmet. Because it's about to get nasty.
I got nothing else to add to
that. That's the fact of life. You are going up. Welcome to the jungle.
Good luck with that one. It sucks. Sorry. The next one is sure the game is noob friendly. So his example here was the Star Wars FAD, and being familiar with Edge of the Empire, or he was familiar with the Star Wars Edge of the Empire game. And the GM said, "Oh yeah, sure. Well, if you're not familiar with it, I'll help you out. I'll walk with you. We'll make sure that you learn the game system and that everything kind of works out. And everybody else is super experienced with the game. So you're the new player into the system, and quickly the game turns into you're no longer playing beginner chess. It's immediate, you go from beginner chess hour one to advanced chess. It's no more hand holding. You're in the deep water. Again, this seems like false advertising.
It does, and it's also false. It's also not filtering your players, because it sounds like that storyteller put out noob-friendly game. He wanted maybe some noobs to join and got all experienced players, except for one. And he didn't hey guys, if we get any noobs in this, I'm going to take it real slow. So you experienced players that for some odd reason joined a noob-friendly game, just be understanding. I'm going to take this a step at a time. I don't care if you've been doing Edge of Empire for 10 years. I'm going to tell you which dice to roll. Just because I don't remember which one of you are noobs and which one of you are experienced. So I'm going to tell you all, take a 20-sided die.
Yeah, especially as your character progresses, because like if you don't understand how to make your character progress to meet the challenges, which is that was a previous email that we'd gotten from Gary, was talking about how like at some point his character sort of became obsolete because he didn't understand the skills and what he needed to make the character like mesh well into the game. If you want to stay with the game, ask the GM if you can respec, or
that's perfect answer.
Or if the GM throws you into the deep end, it does not help you out with the game, and the rest of the players are like, if the rest of the players are giving you shit and talking behind your back, like that's not a good gaming experience. You don't want to
get
deal
the
with
fuck
that.
out of it. The minute that anybody's talking shit behind my back because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and literally the title of this was noob friendly. Well, first off, fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them.
Be glad that I'm here to let you run this game, okay?
I'm out. I'm out. The minute you don't want to deal with those people, don't associate with those people. Those people
again, it's false advertising. I would probably have left the game almost right away. I mean, again, it sucks. I know bird in the hand better than two in the bush or whatever. You
were like all about the analogies today.
Yeah, I'm on point with them. But again, if it doesn't work, then it's just you gotta move through it. The next one is I'm no mind reader, and so the example here is him talking about how the GM is given too much minute detail to like a backstory. So like the evil villain's evil nanny is like really like the one behind all of this stuff because of the treatment that she had gotten, and like you got it in some weird innocuous piece of information and you didn't pick up on it, and now it's 2 weeks later and you're trying to play this memory game to try to figure out where to go next or what to do next. And all I gotta say with that is tell your GM, like, dude, I didn't read your novel, okay? Nor am I a character in your novel. I can only do what you lay out in front of me. Like,
okay, so with this, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and that's what the storyteller's fallen into. Okay, the storyteller made the objective a MacGuffin. You can only do it by knowing that if you had read the explicit backstory, understood that the evil nanny was the source of this man's rage and frustration against the earth. They've made it so it's only one way, and that's a fault on them. That's there's got to be multiple ways to complete the puzzle. Excuse me. And they just haven't offered that to you. And really that's on the storyteller. I would inform the storyteller that, like, listen, there's this podcast out there.
Yeah, I shamelessly told you, Gary, to recommend our podcast.
And that's exactly what Jared's telling the rest of the listeners. Give them this podcast. Tell them, like, listen, there's a great thing on villains.
The other thing that you could recommend the GM to do, this will just make your life a little bit easier, because we do this with week-to-week games, is ask the GM for a recap of what happened last week. It, one, helps everybody focus into the table, get back into the scene. Two, if he really wants to cue in on the evil nanny, he might at least offer that up in the recap.
Yep. This is a fault of a storyteller, and as a player, really all you can do is notify your storyteller that, like, hey, I was listening to this podcast, and they recommended that, listen, you need to make sure there isn't just one way to learn this. Especially, if you look at or listen to our investigation podcast, where essentially, you can beat a story or a player with the keys to the kingdom. Okay, the most vital fucking clue, the one that will answer all their questions. You can beat them with it, and sometimes, guess what? They still miss it.
They don't want to take it. They're
No,
like, that can't be it.
That can't be it. Their brain says no.
Or they're fixated on some other clue that you gave them.
Yeah. And that's why, you got to have more than one way to solve the riddle.
We always say make it 2 steps stupider.
Make it 2 steps stupider.
And this is a great example of that. Make it 2 steps stupider. You've got to make sure that your players can be able to find the answer. And your GM, tell your GM, like, listen, it's got to be, you literally got to throw the brick in their face a couple of times.
And you tell them that, hey, this is just constructive criticism. This is positive feedback. I want you to make your story better for all of your players. And this is one of the things that you can do. So that's.
All right, so the final one is I'm not reading your graphic novel either. Okay, and so this has to do with GMs who like pound the ever living heck out of lore and make it like, I've created my own world. Here's my 30-page thing of lore, and I'm going to make references to this piece of lore. And what I always say is, again, communicate this to your GM and go, lore needs to be digestible. I just need to know what is really, really key. Like, if I'm playing werewolf, worm is bad.
Worm is bad.
Worm is bad. If I'm playing, maybe a fantasy setting, dwarves and elves, they don't mix. Okay, something like that. Okay, but when it gets down to, my minutia details, like you need to understand the table etiquette at a formal ball, or how these 2 subspecies on your planet mate, that starts getting a little weird.
So, okay, this is, honestly, applause to the storyteller for going so far into their world building or crafting of a story and stuff like that. Applause to them because they literally put the work in. But expecting a player to know it off of hand or know it as well as you do. So I spent many years in education, and then I spent it in corporate training. People wondered how I knew some of our systems so well. And I'd look at them and I said, I wrote the manual on it. I didn't know the system until I wrote the manual. And it's because I wrote the book by trial and error. And it takes me, 3 weeks to write the book on it. That's how I learned it. It's because I wrote it and I had to write it. And I went back and forth with it. And that's the thing about the storyteller. The storyteller knows it really well because they wrote it, right? They dived into the table manners. They were like, well, how would these 2 species mate? They sat and pondered that. So they're going to know it off the top of their head through simple repetition and simple thought of the subject. The thing about it is that a lot of storytellers forget when they go into that. My character was born and raised in this environment. So my character's background should really cover all of these things. I would know table manners because I am from this world. And if the table manners are truly that important, I'm gonna learn them. It's just like please and thank you here in on Earth. We know please and thank you. It's appropriate. There are the odd people out there that don't know those words, but they're actually considered weird in our society. They're actually the out of place thing. They're the spoon in the drawer full of knives. Unless that was his goal, was to make people who don't have any idea of the social cues as the basis for his story, or the foundation for his story, then he's failed at his job. Because he is supposed to make the world believable. He is supposed to welcome you into this world and make you a part of the world, not separate you from it. It should just be known that the knife goes on the left-hand side, especially if table manners are so important for this world. Then my mother would have been teaching me since I was very young. The knife goes on the left side. You know, especially if it's a life and death thing.
That's a good point. I mean, you're bringing up, the innate stuff that you need to understand in the world is stuff that would be understood by anybody who lives in the world. Okay, and if it's an important thing that your players, because the player is unknowledgeable about the world, then it is the GM's responsibility to inform the players at that time.
I'm going to give one more example, especially with this dinner party thing. If this dinner thing is so important that it's life and death, I want to compare it to, we are taught as kids, right? Don't hit other people. Why? Because we're going to get hit back. Our parents are trying to keep us from irreparable harm. And we're taught it since barely out of infancy, right? You don't hit mommy and daddy. Because you're going to get hit back in the real world. And there's a threat to your life if you get hit back. So the table manners would have been taught from almost out of infancy. If the mating rituals are that important. But in the end, Gary does make a funny point of, no, I'm not going to read your book. As a storyteller, if you're handing me a binder full of stuff, I'm not. I got.
Yeah, and Gary, you mentioned you're a fiction writer yourself, in your free time. I get it. Like, you can world build, but you can't expect your players to read the background.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, when storytellers do think of that, they're like, I read it, it's fantastic, you're going to read it, and you're going to love it. Here's the thing. That's not the truth of writers. This is a weird fact. I don't like Stephen King. I don't like his books. I love horror. I don't like Stephen King books. I love his movies based off of Stephen King. I don't like his books. I hate Tom Clancy novels. Hate them. They're too fucking technical. It's like reading stereo instructions. I used to write them for a living. Stereo instructions. Can't stand it. Because all I see is work. Just because you wrote it doesn't mean that your players are going to like it.
That's a great point.
I have a rule. If I'm not entertained in the first 70 pages of a book, it's gone. And that is a rule I hardcore follow. Fact. 70 pages, that's what you got.
There you go. If you're going to write for Jared, that's the rule.
That's the rule. You got 70 pages to get me entertained.
So, to wrap this all up, besides some of the communication and some of the other things we've given you here, one of the things I would urge you to consider is, if there's something that you think you could fix by communicating them, try and communicate them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the too long didn't read version of this entire podcast is kind of like, you might need to go find a different group.
Yeah.
And if you're on I know that seems too easy,
but it's the fact of life.
Yeah, and it's tougher if you're at a table of people, like an in-person group, and you were invited to that table, like you have like relationships with them, then these things are generally a little bit easier to correct in the group, because the GM is more willing to put forth the effort to make sure that everyone's having a good time. If you're on an online group, I feel like that GM might feel like they could just get a new player tomorrow.
Exactly.
I hate to look at it in the type of crassness that I look at with work, but I kind of look at it in the way of, if I hate my job, I'll go find another job, or I'll try to find another job.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't. You maybe don't have to abandon your table at that moment, but start putting out the feelers. And the other
you
thing,
don't got to abandon them tomorrow, but
the other thing too is, if there are players that you like at the table, reach out to them, see if they play at any other tables. Maybe they've got a better group for you.
That's a great idea.
There's just a good way to maybe kind of network yourself into a better game.
That's a great idea.
Anything else you want to add to this one, Jared?
Nope, I'm solid.
Or any of these other points?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you for sending this in, and I hope that we were able to address some of the issues. Hopefully, we were able to talk about them, give you some suggestions, and the feedback.
Sorry
was
that the
useful.
only answer to lovebirds at the table is you're fucked.
It
Sorry,
is.
that's the only answer.
It's a deal with the pain train or get out. Okay.
No, fall in line, deal with the pain train, or get out.
But anyways, thank you as always for listening. I know you sent us another thing on Facebook. We'll get to that one as well and talk about that in the future. And if anybody else has suggestions, go ahead and contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com. We're happy to help out. We're happy to field episode suggestion topics. We're always excited to reply. So go ahead and contact us there or at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. Otherwise, go ahead and share with your gaming group. Maybe this is the one that you got to share with your GM. You got to share some of the other ones with your GM because they're just not following these rules. Review, subscribe, make sure other GMs are kind of networking and hearing about this podcast. So, hopefully it helps them out as well. But anyways, that's going to wrap us up for the week. For Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week, everyone.